to all my BPTV fans, YouTube fans, and new fans. I'm Alan Levine, the Talking Machine, and I'm doing my 30-plus Talking Machine show. Thank you for all the great feedback and comments. Appreciate all of them, good, bad, and indifferent. Pumps me up to keep doing them, and I plan on doing it the second Wednesday and the fourth Wednesday of every month. I have a great guest here who happens to be a Pittsburgh Sportsline co-host, and I'll have him introduce himself right now.
Hi, my name is Nicholas Callis, and I'm a part of Sportsline, and if you were expecting Smoking Jim, I'm sorry. I don't think he can make it on Wednesdays. But yeah, I've been a co-host on Sportsline for almost 2 years now. And I work at 93.7 The Fan, too, as another part-time job. And I'm here now getting ready to be asked some questions from the best.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And a little disclaimer to Smoking Jim, we don't know where he's at all times. And that's tough to lasso him and get him in here. And I'm honored that he's shown up for 11 years on Pittsburgh Sportsline every Tuesday night at
From
7.
Monroeville.
Yes,
Allegedly.
and other places.
Yeah, well.
Numerous. But, Nick, where did you grow up?
So I grew up in Greentree, and I'm sure Al loves that because we both shared the nice place of Johnny Wilson Field. That was one of the baseball parks I played in.
I pitched there.
Yeah, I grew up in Greentree. I went to Aiken Elementary, Fred L. Aiken Elementary.
I went there, too.
There you go. I was a 2017 graduate, though, of Keystone Oaks. So, were you 1972, right?
No, I
Four.
got 1974,
Ooh.
and you don't have Manila Avenue School,
No.
which was a half a mile from my house on Park Edge Road for all you Greentree people.
But yeah, so I went to Keystone Oaks Middle School and High School, graduate of there. But I'm from Greentree, and then did my college education at Waynesburg University, which is in Greene County, so a couple counties south.
And when did you graduate from Waynesburg?
2021, so a little over a year ago.
And who was your professor?
So my main professor and academic advisor was Lanny Fratteri.
The legend.
I had a bunch of professors, though, that helped me out in my time there. But Lanny
you want
was,
to mention any of them?
I do. Melinda Roeder, she's the news director at KDKA. Doug Wilson, he's WAMB radio personality down in Waynesburg. Who else? Christine Schiffbauer, who was
We're not going to ask you to
professor.
spell any names.
No, I'm not spelling any names because I do forget how to spell her name. Those are three off the top of my head right now that were pretty influential in my time there.
Thanks for doing that. And when you talked about Aiken, and you know all the ball fields around, there was a little league field that I pitched on, had a great career, but the ball fields weren't even built there because that was all land-filled up area.
Are you talking about the Hemlock Fields? That are there
I don't
now?
even know what they're called.
Yeah, they're called the
we
Hemlock
just
Fields.
called them Aiken Fields because they were down below. And
Oh, you know what? Yeah, so there.
and a friend of mine had a house in between all the landfill.
Oh, wow.
And I forget his name right now, but
Yeah, so there are two fields down there now. There's Aiken 1, which is played by the youngest of the young kids who still have coach pitch. Then there's Aiken 2, played by the high school and Pony League Colt teams down there that they use. And then they have the field that's Point Park now. It's owned by Point Park that we played on sometimes for high school.
oh, is it? I didn't know.
Yeah,
that.
our KO got to play there.
I heard at one time it was Duquesne. Was that true?
Yeah, that's true.
Okay.
But then up on the hill there are two little league fields that are adjacent to each other.
And a
parallel
tennis
to each
court?
other. There's not a hockey. There's a hockey rink.
Okay.
A floor
I
hockey
wasn't
rink.
sure what it was because
No,
I
there's
haven't
no
been
tennis
there.
court over there. Yeah, but yeah, it's a real nice place down. That's where I spent most of my baseball career at those 5 fields in Greentree.
Now, this isn't all about me, but Fred L. Aiken was one of my best friend's grandfather. His name was Bill Russo. He was a famous teacher and everything. And he's Italian, and he has some Irish side to it. And it was we were honored to go to school, and he goes, that was my grandfather.
Wow.
So,
That's
I
great.
mean, how cool is Greentree? It's
Greentree's a
off the
great place.
charts with us. And what sports did you play?
So my early years, baseball was the first sport I ever played.
Me too.
Or was it, actually, now that I think about it? Because I played soccer, too, but I don't know if I did baseball first, then soccer, but those are definitely my first two. Then I realized I wasn't any good at soccer, so I kind of stayed exclusively to baseball until I got to middle school, and that's when I started to play football. I played football 1 year in elementary school, realized I wasn't that good, and I knew nothing about football back when I was like 10. So I tried again in middle school, and I did a little better because I was a little more physically mature. And then I got a funny story about wrestling, how I got into it.
Go ahead.
I was planning on playing basketball, and for some reason when the basketball sign-ups were due, I just told myself in homeroom when the announcement was going on, I was like, nah, I don't think basketball's my thing. Out of nowhere. And I was telling everybody I was going to play basketball. And then the wrestling signups came up, and I was like, I'm kind of big, I'm kind of strong or, taller than everybody. I think wrestling would be a good idea. My homeroom teacher told me, she's like, hey, if you want to try it, you can just sign up and
opt out.
And you don't have to do it, but if you're at least slightly interested, try it. And I ended up wrestling for 4 years.
What was your homeroom teacher's name?
Mrs. Wrestler. Or Miss
Okay.
Wrestler, yeah.
Shout out.
Yeah. Nice, and as small as that might have seemed to her, it was a really pivotal moment because it turned into 4 years of me wrestling and staying in shape and learning a new sport. So
Nice.
So I've played, and I also played deck hockey for the Boys and Girls Club intermediately there for like 3 or 4 years. So
Where
at
at?
5 sports
At
then? Boys
Wednesday?
and Girls Club in Carnegie.
Okay.
Mhm.
Definitely no. Boys and girls clubs are very good
And
in the area.
I played goalie there, and that kind of transitioned me to be a catcher in baseball because a lot of the mechanics were the same, so that kind of helped me out.
Wow.
So.
Let's go to baseball. Let's hear a little bit about your career. What positions were you playing? You mentioned catcher, but where'd you start out
So
at?
I started out. I wasn't very good, so I played the outfield a lot.
Understand.
So they just kind of put me out there, and I was one of the people to kind of pick some grass, and wasn't always paying attention. But the better I got, I was more consistently a third baseman and a left fielder. That transitioned more to first base. And by the time I was in middle school, I would consider myself a utility guy. You could put me anywhere, and I'd
could
succeed
play.
pretty well. Yeah, and that kind of dwindled. When the competition gets stiffer, I started to struggle at every position. But
Could
I
you
would,
catch? Were
I
you-
could.
Okay.
My consistent positions were pitcher, catcher, first base, third base, and left field.
Wow, that's a bunch.
I could.
You were flexible.
I could confidently play all those positions.
And how was your hitting?
I hit pretty well. I was a consistent middle of the order hitter until I got to high school, and there was a lot of competition in high school, and I struggled at that point in Waynesburg. I also struggled, but yeah, my earlier times, I was really like a 3, 4, or 5 guy, sometimes 2 as well. I was really good at making
Nice.
contact, so that made me
Did you
better
have
than a lot.
fun?
I did.
That's what counts. What I
baseball-
tell everybody: get involved in sports.
Baseball is my favorite sport, and I just love it because it's so unique. And I talk about this when I talk about baseball. You got other sports where you try to take the ball from one side of the court to the other, or one
Yeah.
side of the field to the other. And baseball is different because the mechanics of it. You take the central part of the game is at home plate, and the field branches out as you get further down the foul lines. And your job is to hit a ball in this abstract area and then run the bases based on the trajectory of where the ball is hit. And that's just different from every other mainstream sport out there. I'm not saying that people who play those sports aren't impressive when they do it, but baseball is just built differently, and that's always appealed to me.
Well, even what's unique about it is it's a team sport, but yet individuals like pitchers, catchers, and batters are highlighted.
And that's why I like wrestling too, because everything in wrestling, you're fighting for your team, but at the same time you have to win your match.
It's mano y mano.
Exactly. Same thing with baseball. If you're a batter, your job is to win your plate
At bat,
appearance against
yeah.
the batter. Yeah. So, or against the pitcher, I mean. So, or if you're a pitcher, vice versa. So, yeah, I love the individual.
And then you can break it down to each position.
Sure.
Like, look what a shortstop has to do.
Yeah.
Catch the ball and throw it to first.
Yeah. Now, when a ball's put in play, it's more like the mechanics of those other sports too, because you could say
There's
the same thing for
interplay.
Football. Everybody on the line's got to do their job so the offense can succeed or the defense can succeed. One side can succeed more by what the line does. So those guys got to do their job. So that's like the same thing when a ball is hit. But like when you're to make a play happen, it starts with the one-on-one. And in wrestling, same thing. You can only score points for your team if you win your match. And that's why I love those two sports the most. Because again, they're different from every other mainstream sport that you watch.
Yeah, I'm with you. My first love was baseball, and I still love it.
Yes,
And
same.
I do for many of those same reasons, plus the success I had as a pitcher in Greentree. People still remember that, so that's pretty cool.
And you've thrown some no-hitters, I've heard.
Only 2 in Little League.
Yeah, they limited our innings by that point. I was only able to throw 3 innings in Little League, so I don't know if there were regulations like that back then.
Here was the regulations. Alan, do you want to pitch? I pitched, my 12 years old, I pitched 8 full complete games, no pitch count.
Was it still 6 innings for you guys back
Yes,
then?
I had 7 wins and 1 loss. I cried after the loss, and we were co-champion Reds. I was on the Reds team, if they're still around.
No, they're not. We're branded as Greentree teams now, or if there are too many kids for one team, they'll branch off into 2 or 3.
Okay.
So we're just labeled as Greentree, and then we have some sponsors on our back, so that's how we're labeled based on who the sponsor.
Times have changed.
Yeah.
I'm looking back. Let me think. 54 years ago, I was 12.
Well, I was 12. Well, I can't believe that I was 11. 11 years ago, I was 12. So That's crazy to me that time's flying now too, and now I'm doing adult things. I don't play anymore.
Time in life is like a river.
It just keeps
You
flowing.
can't stop it
Can't stop the flow.
till you're dead. And that's the only way out.
Well,
not to be morbid. Let's get back to baseball, because you have something you brought up on Pittsburgh Sportsline about your baseball event that you were at.
Yeah, so
Please tell us. They're excited out here.
So I went to the Cooperstown Dream Parks.
Say that again.
Cooperstown Dream Park. So
You know where the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, so that's what a National Baseball Hall of Fame is in
Thank you.
Cooperstown. So I played there when I was 12 years old as a part of my
11
AAU
years
team.
ago.
Yeah, 11 years ago. As a part of my AAU team, and we played in a set of games. We enrolled in the tournament and went. So like, if you win a bunch of games and then you win your bracket in the playoffs, you get to play against the best of the best teams from the Cooperstown Dream Park sometime in August or September when all the main tournaments are done. We didn't get that far, but I did something that earned me a ring. I hit a home run in Cooperstown Dreams Park, so I was inducted into the American Youth Baseball Hall of Fame. So if you look
At
up
Cooperstown.
yeah, so if you look up my name online, if you look up my name and
Mention your name again.
Nicholas Callis. If you look up Nicholas Callis Baseball or Cooperstown Dreams Parks, you should be able to find my team. We're the Pittsburgh Prowlers.
Spell your last name.
Callas. I'm sure there's a graphic on the screen because Dave Cable's pretty good at putting that stuff in there. So
I like to get it out because I'm
Right.
old. If you say it a couple
Right.
times, then we know
So
it.
just as a redundancy, Callas. You search it up. You search Pittsburgh Prowlers or Cooperstown Dreams Park next to my name. You should be able to find my team. And, yeah, I have a ring to show it. I did on Sportsline because one of our co-hosts likes to didn't think I was credible with baseball. So I just wanted to show them because they made us when we were there. You had you had a high socks. You had to have your cap always facing forward. You always had to wear a belt. Everything was so meticulous about how you should respect the game. And I just wanted to prove, like, I know how to respect baseball because, like, I went there. You're staying in barracks. You're playing through rain and fog. You know, you're moving fields if you need to, if the weather's bad. Like, they had, like, 35 fields you could play on, like, all together in there. So, like,
That's so cool.
If one field was too damaged, you would move to another one. Like, they would ride the players on golf carts. Like, that's how serious they took this.
Wow.
And the umpires couldn't call the games. They had to have a league official. If a game was going to get delayed or moved, a league official had to come stop the game. The umpires were just in charge of their games, but the league had to move
Final
the games.
say,
Like,
yeah.
it was that professional and that strict. But I love that because it really made me appreciate. I love that experience because it really made me appreciate baseball and even more on the fact that I hit a home run there. My mom got a T-shirt that said my son hit a home run at Cooperstown, and that's what she was saying. She's like, Nicholas, you better bring me back a shirt.
So how long did you play baseball?
So I played from when I was 5 years old to when I was 20. So 15,
Okay.
I'd say 15 seasons with several different teams. I played for Green Tree. I played for the Pittsburgh Prowlers. I played for another AU team called the Pittsburgh Diamond Dogs. I played for Brentwood Summer League.
Whoa.
I played for Keystone Oaks High School. The middle school never had a team, and I was kind of sad about that. And they
Right.
got rid of the freshman team when I was in 8th grade. They usually
Timing's everything. And I remember when
Yeah.
we were one of the top schools with Mount Lebanon, Cannon Mac, Upper St. Clair, Baldwin.
Well, we
We had enough kids, going to the school, so we qualified in the 70s to be up there, even though we should have been lower.
I think that our Keystone Oaks baseball team was one of the first to go to the state tournament in 2013. I wasn't on that team, but I was a part of the other two teams that went to states. I was on the team in 15 and 16 we didn't qualify in 15. We qualified in 16. So I was
Okay.
on one of the two. But yeah, we made playoffs when I was on the team.
Well, that's 6 years ago.
3
I
of the
know we're
4
going
years?
back.
Yeah. 2 of the 3 years I was on varsity, we made playoffs. So that was a fun experience to go and just kind of like ride the highs and lows of the season and the playoffs. And I think we only had one loss when I was a sophomore, so that was
Nice. You had
was a
some
pretty
great
dominant
fun,
team.
and you were winning.
yeah. I hate Steel Valley though because they beat us. We beat them twice in the regular season, and we had the state consolation game,
Ooh,
and then we lost. So that was a rough one.
that's a tough one. Hey, we all have memories like that, for sure.
Sad memories.
When did you start announcing and refereeing or umpiring games?
Which one you want to go with first?
Let's go umpiring.
So I always loved the idea of umpiring. I played video games when I was younger, and I always loved the mechanics that the umpires had, just the way they signaled things, and I always thought that was cool. So
Did you say strike? Sometimes?
Yeah.
Just asking.
Yeah, I actually modeled, when I first started umpiring, I modeled how I called stuff based on how the video game umpires would call it because they were real dramatic, and I liked that.
With
when
the
I was
ball
little.
and
Like,
strikes.
Hack one! And I always liked that. So,
You have a great voice, buddy.
Thank you. So I first started umpiring when I was 13, and I was just doing 10U games, and then I got really good, and all the people in Green Tree were noticing that I was doing well, so they were telling me that I should get a patch. So I ended up getting certified when I was 19 to do high school games. So I have a PIAA certification.
I remember those days with my dad. He was a PIAA basketball referee, and he wore that patch with pride.
And we've talked.
I still have it.
We talked about this. I wish I could have met your father since he was a referee because
and an umpire.
I'd like to hear about some of those stories. But
well, did you read the rule book? Because he read it every day and week.
So the guy who first trained me when I was doing 10U games, though, said, if you want to be a good umpire, you go to the Major League Rule Book and you read batter, batter, fielder, and runner. Because if you know those three, you can do Little League. Because Little League rules, if it's not specified in the Little League Rule Book, everything defers to Major League Baseball. So if you know those three sections of the rule book, you're good. You're good to go, and you can umpire at little levels. And of course, I read it's the NFHS. I forget what that stands for, but it's a high school rule book. So, so I read those when I got certified, and you had to take a test to get the patch. And I passed the test, I became that umpire. But yeah, you learn a lot more about a sport when you're actually, officiating it. And the guy who trained me ended up telling me, he's like, Nick, you're going to be a real good announcer since you know the rules, because that's part of explaining.
Or you're going to be a good umpire.
No.
Announcer.
He meant because he knew I was going into announcing. So he told me.
We were trying to go first. Okay.
No, I meant. So he told me, he was like, yeah, you're going to be, because he knew I was going into broadcasting. He said, you're going to do really well in announcing since you know this stuff. But yeah, all the people in Green Tree really liked me, and I'm not big on standing still when I officiate. I always like to run, especially if I'm the only one behind the plate. If there's a place somewhere at a base, I run there.
Yeah.
And that's something that I've always prided myself on, and that people really enjoyed, because I get to places, I can see clearly. I'm not just making calls from one side of the field. And
you're right on top of it, basically.
Exactly. And I always prided myself on doing well, because I know from my experience as a player, I always haven't had the best officials when I've played. So I always prided myself on making sure that I could do the best that I could do, so that the kids that I was umpiring for, or even the high school level, those guys could get the most fair and balanced game.
Let me interject on this. My dad would have loved you because his philosophy was, if you notice a referee or umpire during a game, he'd go, we're not doing our job.
Yeah.
That's how he talked about it. So you two would have got along famously.
Well, and listen to this too. This was a tip that the guy that trained me gave me. His name is Tom Kramer. He's a Green Tree resident as well.
Nice.
And I like to shout him out because he was influential in my umpiring career. But he told me, he's like, if there's a mechanism to change a call and you know you got it wrong, use that mechanism to change it. You can't change balls and strikes. I've apologized to catchers before because I've missed a couple. And I think that gains a lot of respect with the players.
Right.
And if there was a mechanism to change a call and I just knew I blew it, I'd go up to my partner and be like, yeah, I knew I blew that. Let's just talk for a couple seconds. And then I'll overturn the call. I corrected it because it's and I learned this from watching the 2013 World Series. They had insider audio when one of the umpires was explaining a call. Dustin Pedroia, or no, it wasn't Pedroia. Somebody slid into second, and the shortstop missed on the transfer, and the umpires overturned it. And this umpire explained, "Hey, all five of us said that was not a catch. He dropped it on he dropped it not on the transfer. Our job is to get it right." I've always
so
lived
that's
by that
stuck
as an
in your
umpire.
mind.
It's not about holding up a call. It's about getting a call right.
No, great points. Great points. So now you graduate Keystone Oaks. What was the plan?
So the plan was to play baseball, and the plan was to get start a career in announcing, or start my education toward having a career in sports announcing. And the plan when I went in did not turn out the way I thought it would.
What happened?
And it never does. So I was a little bit bigger when I went into school, and I really thought that I didn't have to maintain my body or my physical attributes that I had when I was younger to be able to play. And I came in, and playing college baseball, playing any college sport, it's the next level. So like you're lifting every day, you're working on your fundamentals every day. It's not fun. Now I had fun with it as I started to get more in shape, but like getting back into shape and getting into a consistent routine was not fun.
Sure.
But the problem was because I had to overcompensate for my baseball training, I struggled with it with the education. I wasn't doing as much.
Oh my goodness!
I wasn't doing as much with the communication department as I wanted to. So, because I really just wanted to ride out the 4 years of baseball that I had left, because I knew
this would be it.
There's no future in being an athlete for my career. So it's like, ride these 4 years. And a big problem with that though is that I was not leaning toward the top of my class at the time for the sports announcers, and on top of that, I wasn't able to announce baseball because I was on the team. So I mean,
you had to make a
Career,
decision.
right? My career, I want to announce baseball for a living. So, but I couldn't feasibly get a job as a baseball announcer or be regarded as a good baseball announcer if I didn't start to do it. So that was the point where I had to make the choice. It's like, okay, well, got to let go of the thing. It's going to hurt because I played for 15 years. I didn't know what it was like to not play. But, yeah, at that time I was, okay, we're done.
Well, you reached what Julius Caesar in history, he had to cross a river, and it was called the Rubicon. That was your Rubicon moment.
Yeah, I would say so then. So then I started doing more with the department. I started getting more involved in TV because I worked.
And what was your degree that you were studying for?
So the official degree is a Bachelor of Arts, Communication, and then the focus in sports broadcasting. And
Okay, so those are all little.
So I also know how to keep stats on certain programs. I also know how to public address announce. That's all sports information. But the sports broadcasting side is the announcing and how to run a soundboard or run the technology it takes to do a broadcast on site. So
okay, so you got a whole package.
Right. Yeah.
In front and behind.
Right. Yeah. So, but yeah, you're working with the TV station. We have a community television station in Waynesburg so like Bethel Park has BPTV here. Well, the Waynesburg government decided that they would allow the university to use the television station to make content.
We have public access TV.
Right. So Waynesburg Community Television, what we use, but the government there, the council lets the university make content directly for the station and run the station out of the university, which is really cool. So I started doing more with that. I started doing more with the radio station, WCYJ-FM. I started doing more with our TV sports productions because we had a trailer that we got my junior year, so we started doing live stuff. And then, so I really started getting more well-versed in the whole department to make myself more versatile. And believe it or not, I'm a volunteer at BPTV now, and TV was not my strong suit before I came here. So this place has been really good for that too. But yeah, just like finding different ways to make sure that I could tune myself and make myself as versatile as possible to be the best that I could be wherever I am in the field of communication.
Well, let me compliment you. From not knowing much about TV with Dave's tutelage, Dave Cable, the director, you're a stellar cameraman, and you're great on sound. You directed a musical Talking Machine show last week.
That was a fun
Crash
challenge.
Army.
Yeah.
You directed all the shots and everything, and the sound that turned it out great. So mission accomplished for us at BPTV.
Yeah, but I'll say this too, and COVID was a terrible time, and I'll say that. But I'll also say that I wouldn't have been able to come here unless COVID had happened, because some personal things happened in my life where a couple internships of mine dropped, and that's when I came here and started doing shows.
How'd you hear about us?
So Miss Elaine Volpe in the library.
Children's librarian.
Yeah, so she knows my mom, and she had been this is a hilarious story I want to tell.
That's why I brought it up.
She knew my mom, and she was telling my mom about BPTV, that it existed. And at the time, I had it confused with the high school's productions, because when I started going to college, I was like, no, I don't want to do any high school work. I'm in college now. But then I found out that Waynesburg Community Television existed, and that's not the university station. It's a community station in Waynesburg. And then I put the pieces of the puzzle together, like, BPTV is probably just Bethel Park's community station. Bethel Park owns the station. So, oops. My bad.
Yeah.
My bad. And I apologize to my mom profusely because I wish I had come here sooner. But, yeah, that's the story on that. And then when the internships fell through, I sent an email to Mr. Dave Cable, and I was like, hey, I know how to do all these things. Can I come have a job and an internship? And he said yes. And then we had a meeting, and
how'd that meeting go with Dave? Because he's real tough in these meetings.
He had a mask on, so it made him scary. Like,
just had to bring it up.
We both have blue eyes, and we were just kind of like looking at into each other's souls through the mask, and I was trying to outdo him, but his eyes were really getting me. But yeah, he told me, he said, Nick, he said, I was like, so what am I going to do? I was expecting, like, am I just going to be an editor? Am I going to be an on-location guy doing camera work? Am I going to be running a control room for any shows in the studio? And he said,
yes.
Nick, we do TV stuff here, so you're probably going to do some TV work. And I'm like, what does that mean? I didn't tell him that at the time. I was so afraid because I didn't know about television as much back then. Radio was more of my expertise. So coming in and him just telling me, I'm like, am I supposed to know what that means? And
did he teach you?
He did. I think I tried once to do something on my own. I put a tripod up, but I put it upside down.
Nice. I remember that story.
And after that, I was like, okay, time for me to sit back.
Let me tell you, don't feel so bad. I had to set up a camera for boxing, and I had that same tripod because it was new. I did it upside down, and I'm like, what's wrong with this? I think I even called Dave up to tell me it's upside down.
Yeah, well,
So I did it too.
But then I think the first day I was here, I worked on a Sportsline production, and I remember asking Al like 2 weeks in because he said he was looking for a fourth host. I was like, hey, I do sports productions and stuff. And then he gave me the nicest no. He's like, nah, I'm thinking of other guys and stuff. And then lo and behold, Smoking Jim missed because
talk about that day.
He got in a car accident and
he survived.
Yeah, he survived. He's still on the show. But 15 minutes before we figured out that he wasn't going to come on, and I was like, get in the seat. And I didn't know what I was going to talk about because Lanny always taught us to prepare, and I'm big on making sure I know what I'm going to talk about before I do anything professional. So I was real scared, but I ended up going on, and then 2 weeks later,
Here's the funny part about it. Now, Smoking Jim's in an accident. The police came down. We'll let you know after the show what we hear more. We heard. So we're getting close to a few minutes, and I go, hey, Nick, I want you to replace Smoking Jim.
Yeah.
He had a deer in a headlight look.
I was real scared.
Then he goes, what am I going to talk about? And I go, you've played sports, you've umpired sports, you've announced sports, and you're trying to get a degree in communication with sports. I think you'll be all right. And you're not going away, I could tell.
2 years later now.
It's close to 2 years you'll be coming up on that.
Yeah, so just to kind of put an end to where I am now, Smoking Jim kind of helped me get some connections, and they got me to 93.7 The Fan. So on top of volunteering at BPTV still, I also do work at 93.7 The Fan as a programming producer. I run the Pirates board for any of the games that are broadcast on the network, and then I also do some of the local shows. If a full-time producer can't come in, my job is to be ready for those guys who can't make it in. So those are my two jobs right now, 93.7 The Fan producer and BPTV production assistant.
And both of us are experts on time. We went over the 29-minute mark.
Oh, only a minute.
And we're going to say thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed Nick's great story. We got more to come. See him every Tuesday night, 7 o'clock to 8, Pittsburgh Sportsline with all of us. And thank you for being fans of the Talking Machine Show. We'll be back in a couple weeks.